Good afternoon and welcome, Pitt first-year students. I'm really excited to have you here today. My name is Pam Vogel. I'm the Human Resources Department Liaison for College and Community Relations. And so I am your hostess for this afternoon. Really glad that you came because, first of all, you selected us to come here. You had a bunch of opportunities to pick other organizations and you selected us, so we are very happy to have you. The Human Resources Department that I work for, just to give you a little bit of background about us, we service all of our employees, all of our applicants, recruitment and selection, payroll and benefits. We have a health and wellness program that we do because we love all of our employees and we want to make sure that they're healthy and well. And we also have a risk management program to keep everybody safe. So that's our department in a nutshell. And we have a few department representatives today here for you. I'm also going to talk a little bit about our internship program, which I hope you all apply for at some point during your career at Pitt. I am a Pitt alum from many moons ago. It was so long ago that they didn't even have an undergraduate business program. How about that? So I took as many classes as I could and graduated with a communications degree. And I am, again, very glad to have you here today. And our first speaker today is going to be from the Department of Innovation and Performance. They are all of our technology support department, and her name is Sylvia Harris. She is the assistant director, and I would like to turn the mic over to her.
Hey, Pitt. Hey. How y'all is? All right, Department of Innovation and Performance. So you can go to the next slide now. So, this is our mission statement. I'm not going to read it to you because you're first-year students. I'm going to make some assumptions, right? But essentially, what we do, we are the core IT services for all of the city departments. So, finance and DOMI, police, fire, EMS, parks, all of the essential city functions. We handle the IT for them 24/7. Okay, so some of the other things that we do, so I'm the Assistant Director of Operations. I manage all of the technology operations, so the network infrastructure, email, desktop support, and application hosting, all of the things that I talked about earlier. We also are responsible for the client services, so the IT help desk, they're the first line of support. Any problem that's had, the call should go there first. Account management services and performance improvement, so what that is, we've stood up a PMO, the project management office, and we also have business relationship managers. And so what they do is they go and they liaise with the departments and try to find out what type of technical needs do you have, right? As opposed to old school IT where, I build you a laptop and I throw it at you and I leave and, don't call me if it breaks, right? So we have these folks that are out there, shaking the project tree so we can be proactive in trying to help with what their business needs are. We also have the analytics and software solution. So those are the data guys, right? So those are the folks that are collecting, doing the data analytics and those types of things. We also have 311, which is the public facing. So potholes and my garbage didn't get picked up and those types of things. That's also housed in the Department of Innovation and Performance. We have the engagement services. So our website, our social media site, the cable team who's here filming, right? They're waving there. And printing services. So anything that needs to be printed within the city is also housed within our department. We also have, for the innovation side, we have the innovation roadmap, which is about to go into version 2.0, but it's where we ask other businesses to co-op with us on, helping citizens to make things better. And then we also have PGH Lab, which I took a little bit about more in the next slide, or the slide after, not the next slide. When we talk about improving public engagement, we have a program that's called PGH Lab. And what PGH Lab does is they engage different small businesses, small local businesses that are looking for some place to incubate and to grow their business and to partner with someone. We actually just partnered with a company called NetBees, where they do network monitoring. They have devices that you can connect to your network, and it gives live information about what's happening on the network, and it can give alerts if things are having issues, right? So this is something that we're very proud of. That's also housed in the Department of Innovation and Performance, and we are looking for an intern this fall, right? So anybody who's interested, check on our LinkedIn page or also on the city portal. That's going to be posted Monday, I believe Pam said. Okay, next slide. And this is actually just a little bit about, kind of a fun picture of PGH Lab things happening, and just a little bit about some of the other programs that we've worked with. Okay. That's it. Okay. Any questions about what Innovation and Performance does? Or? Great. Thank you.
I was a little nervous when I first started, so I'm going to ask you all a few questions. How many, raise hands, how many are from the Western Pennsylvania area? Ah, the minority. Great. So welcome. This is going to be your home for the next 4 years. Embrace our city. I encourage you to take advantage of a lot of the free things that we have going on with throughout the city. Go on our city website, look at our city parks department. They have a lot of activities that are going on. Take advantage of our parks. They're great. And get involved in the community and in the area. Embrace this as your second home if it's not your first home. And next up, I would like to introduce Executive Director Carlos Torres. He is from our Commission on Human Relations, and he's going to tell you all about his department and what they do.
Thank you, Pam. Yeah, pass them around, please. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Carlos Torres, and I am the director for the Pittsburgh Commission on Human Relations. We have been around since 1955, so I realize that that's way before all of you were born, perhaps even your parents. So we are, as I said, the civil rights enforcement agency for the city of Pittsburgh. In the brochure that I just passed out, in the very front where it says discrimination is against the law, you see what we call our protected classes, and it begins with age. And it goes all the way through survivor of domestic violence. So what that means is that if any individual fall under any of these categories, they are protected under the Pittsburgh City Code. So any person who lives in the city of Pittsburgh, any person who works in the city of Pittsburgh, or any person who visits the city of Pittsburgh is protected under our laws. We work in the areas of employment discrimination, housing discrimination, and I will talk a little bit more about that because next year, hopefully, you'll be moving out of the dorms and venturing out into the neighborhoods of the city. Public accommodations, so this means any business that is open to the public is considered a public accommodation. So Target, Rite Aid, Walmart, a bar, any place that's open for the public is considered public accommodations. And we also work in the delivery of city services, so fire, police, EMS, garbage collection. Any service that the city delivers for its residents, if a person feels that that service has been denied to them because of one of the protected classes, they can file a complaint with our office. Our jurisdiction is the entire city of Pittsburgh, the physical boundaries of the city of Pittsburgh, and the reason I say that is, for those of you who are from here, you know that some locations have a Pittsburgh, PA address, but they're not necessarily within Pittsburgh. So that's why we had to be very specific. That is the physical boundaries of the city of Pittsburgh in which we have jurisdictions. And a person has 365 days to file a complaint of discrimination with our office. So that means 1 year from the date of the incident, the person can come to our office and file a complaint of discrimination. Our services are 100% free. It doesn't cost anyone a single penny to file a complaint of discrimination with our office. And we are a little bit unique from every other department within the city government. And that is that we are an independent agency. That means that we can investigate the city itself. So the city as an employer, the city as a provider of housing, and the city as a provider of public services. And we do see people come and file complaints against the city almost every month on a variety of different fronts. But I wanted to spend just a minute or two talking about housing discrimination. As I said, in the near future, you'll probably be looking to find housing outside or near campus. And it is important for you to know that as a potential resident, you have rights. And those rights can be violated if you're not aware of what those rights are. So, for example, a landlord cannot put special or different conditions or terms on you because you're a student, or because for some individuals who may have a service animal. A service animal under the law is not a pet, it's a service animal. And so those get treated differently under the law. For those of you who might be seeking employment, either part-time or full-time, or you're going to school, also you should not be discriminated against because of your age or your gender or your race or your ethnicity, any of those things that are protected under the law. Our services, as I said, are 100% free. We have 15 commissioners who are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the council, who are our judges, if you will. So when we complete an investigation, we present all the facts of that investigation to the commissioners during one of our commission meetings, and they make a determination whether the evidence that we have collected during the investigation supports the allegation of discrimination or not. If commissioners find that the evidence supports the allegation of discrimination, then we go into what I like to call the fun part of my job, which is forcing people to the table to negotiate a settlement, or we go to trial. Those are the two options after we find cause. So you either agree to settle, or we go to trial. And a trial is a public hearing, and it's exactly what it sounds like, a public event, a public activity. So we not only issue a press release, we put it on social media to encourage members of the public like you to come and hear about an employer or housing provider that discriminated against someone. And that's why I say it's the fun part of the job. Because all the evidence is laid out, not only for commissioners to hear, but for the public to hear. And I love it when reporters show up to our public hearings because we know we're doing our job and the information is getting out there. So, like I said, we have been around since 1955. We have a lot of room for help. So if any of you care about social issues, care about promoting justice and protecting people's rights, come see us. We're on the 9th floor on this building, the other side of the elevators at the end of the hall, all the way to the 9th floor. We're over there with the credit union and internal affairs. Why wouldn't you want to come see us? But we have a great team of investigators. Our investigators are impartial, and we deal with facts. We don't deal with emotions. We don't deal with, what we think ought to be the solution. We deal with facts. Do the facts support the allegations of discrimination, and the evidence that we have discovered supports the allegations? The other piece that I want you to know is when a person comes to us to file a complaint of discrimination, they do not, I say it again, do not have to have any evidence. That is our job, and we're very good at it. So please don't feel like If you're going to go tell your roommate or your friend or a classmate or something about who we are, what we do, they do not have to have any evidence. What we ask primarily is, do you feel that you were treated this way because your gender, your race, ethnicity, religion, so on and so forth? And that's all we need to go by. Any questions? I gave you a lot of information. Oh, by the way, I'm from Puerto Rico. I am not an attorney. I get asked that question all the time, but I play one on television. No, I'm kidding. And I'm also new to the city. I've only been here in October, will be 3 years. So I'm a transplant from Tucson, Arizona. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I hope you were enlightened a little bit about what his department does, and I do encourage you to volunteer and get involved. Thank you, Director Torres. I really appreciate you coming and talking to the students today. And you students, I hope that you were encouraged by what Director Torres had said and offered about his department, and I do encourage you, just as he does, to get involved. Next up, I'm going to introduce you to somebody who was just like you about 5 years ago or so. Her name is Caitlin Pendrak. She works as the special assistant to the mayor, and she's a former intern.
Oh, wow, this is very surreal for me. So hi, everyone. My name is Kate Pendrak, Caitlin. I am the special assistant to Mayor William Peduto, but I'm also a recent graduate of Pitt. I graduated this spring, actually, so I'm feeling very nostalgic. I'm very jealous of all of you. This is my first O week not being a student, so enjoy it. It's nothing like college. Just wait, like the classes do start, but O week's a lot of fun. But you guys have made my commute through Oakland in the morning hell, so thanks for that. So anyways, to start, I guess, talking, I'm really excited to be able to talk to you guys today because it gives me an opportunity to discuss two of the most important life experiences that I've had thus far, being a student at Pitt and also interning for the city. So as she said, I've been interning for the city since my freshman year. I started at Pitt in 2014. I was a computer science major, thinking that was a good idea, and then I realized Calc 3 was a thing, and that ended really fast. So my spring semester of freshman year, I really enjoyed my poli-sci classes, so I was thinking I was going to declare political science, but I hated the quantitative side, so I knew I really wanted to find some real-life experience, some hands-on experience, so I knew I wanted to look for internships. I'm pretty sure when I actually applied online to the internship, I was in my research methods class not paying attention, and I just applied on a whim. I decided to just go for the general application, and I was lucky enough to get a call back from the director of the Office of Municipal Investigations, and she hired me. I started interning for OMI in the summer between my freshman and my sophomore year, and you haven't heard the breakdown of the city departments yet, but OMI is tasked with background checks of safety personnel for the city. They do the background checks for police, fire, and EMS, and they also handle investigations into complaints against city personnel, either by other city personnel or constituents or people who interact with them in the public. So it was a really cool job just due to the nature of the work that we were doing. And obviously, since I was this 19-year-old, I couldn't really do a whole lot with the investigations, so I was really involved in the background check process, which was at the time being revamped to eliminate all bias from it, which was really interesting to be a part of and to be able to sit in on how the applications, every single thing was essentially removed, and it was just like a skeleton of the person just to show that their qualifications. You didn't know the biological sex, how they identified their age, pretty much anything about the candidate. It was really, really neat to be a part of. And I ended up keeping that internship through my sophomore year. I was going to actually continue that into the summer between my sophomore and my junior year when something really, really weird happened in my life, and I found myself as the temporary receptionist in the mayor's office. It was by pure luck, no talent on my chance. They just sort of needed someone to sit at the desk, and I was supposed to only be there for 2 weeks, and those 2 weeks turned into 4 months. And the 20-hour-a-week internship that I started turned into a full-time job. So that summer, I was the full-time receptionist in the mayor's office. You're going to be doing a tour of the department, of our hallway. You'll see Darlene sitting at the front desk. I trained Darlene kind of on the desk, and now she's been there since I was there. And it was definitely the most important experience in my life, just the learning-wise. It was probably the best classroom I could have ever asked for in terms of learning how to be in an office, interacting with people I was working with, constituents, dignitaries, just learning the intricacies of the city. It was just purely incredible. The best 4 months I could have asked for an internship at that time, because it really showed me what I wanted to do with my life. Before, I knew I wanted to help people, I knew I wanted to solve problems, but I wasn't really entirely sure on in what way I could do that, do both and really feel fulfilled. And sort of gave me an answer. I wanted to be a public servant. I wanted to interact with constituents and to have their problems and try to figure out with what I know about how the city runs, how I can best fix it. If they have a pothole, who can they talk to? And so on and so forth. So it really was a defining summer in my life, and I got it just by being in a different department, and they needed someone to sit at the desk, so it really goes to show you've got to show up to be able to get the opportunity. So after that summer, I knew I really wanted to keep interning in the mayor's office. I had to go back to school. I was an RA in Tower A. Is anyone in Tower A? Yeah. The showers may stop working for some reason. It happens. Good luck. Towers is a lot of fun, though, don't worry. Just because you're not in Nordernberg, it's okay. Your life will go on, everyone. So I just kept asking to come back and do different internships with people in the office. I must have done like 5 different unofficial or official internships. I swear I did an internship with James, who's now my other half of the assistant team to the mayor. What was that? What was that? Oh, thanks. So I helped on many different things. The National League of Cities had their... Hello. This is Dan Gilman. He's the mayor's chief of staff. He's my other boss besides the mayor. But I'm going to keep talking, and now I'm much more nervous about what I'm going to say, but that's okay. So I just kept asking to come back in different capacities, working with James, Sally Stadelman, who's now in public safety, Laura Jakowski, who's the mayor's critical communities manager, working on veterans programming, age-friendly programming, individuals experiencing homelessness, many different things happening in the office that I was able to have a hand in, which was really neat. And then after 2.5 years of interning, it was a really big day in my life. Dan Gilman walked into my office, that I was not really my office, to my desk, and offered me a job. So in February of 2018, I was asked to join the team full-time and become the mayor's special assistant, and I've been doing that since. Doing a full-time job and being a full-time student was a lot, but it was definitely, again, like one of the most worthwhile experiences I've ever had in my life. And so now, after graduation, that's still what I'm doing. I handle the mayor's schedule, which is a job and a half in itself. I coordinate the mayor's travel. And if you know anything about our mayor, he does like to go and meet new people all around the world, so his travel really is worldwide. And I basically try to assist him in the best way that I can. And I get to work every day with the people that really had such an important part in my college experience and learning how to do what I now get to sort of help do. So I really guess I can speak to the importance of applying to internships and really putting yourself out there outside the classroom. I mean, Pitt is fantastic. I had such an amazing time. My professors were great. I studied philosophy, political science, and economics through the Honors College, the politics and philosophy program. It's a great merged major if you don't really want to focus just on one major. And I really enjoyed everything that I got to do through the university, but the most important part of my life definitely came from interning in the city. And I wouldn't have done that if I just kept myself confined in Oakland. Oakland's a very small part of the city. Pitt is a really small part of Oakland to begin with, even though it might not feel that way. So I definitely suggest that you look into opportunities that might be outside of the university, but also take advantage of the fact that the university is such a great study abroad program as well. That's something that I definitely suggest everyone does. I never got to do it, but if you can do it, definitely go do it. Just making sure that you're trying to get as many experiences as possible outside the classroom as well as inside. And maybe one day your internship, after 3 years nearly, will offer you a job like mine did. And yeah, thanks for that again, by the way. So yeah, that's sort of my story. There's a lot of us working in the city. I'm pretty sure Mr. Gilman also started as an intern, correct? Yeah. So there's a lot of us in the city who sort of created actual careers out of our internships, and I think that that's something that really shows that the people who come here are really passionate about what they do. So if you're interested, I'm pretty sure I was going to say internship applications are up in departments and things like that. So they're online. We've entered the 21st century, so you can check them out there. But I guess I'm going to be tasked with introducing this gentleman over here. So Daniel Gilman is the Chief of Staff to Mayor William Peduto. He joined the team in January when the mayor was sworn into his second term. Mr. Gilman used to be Councilman Gilman. He was the councilman for District 8 before the mayor asked him to leave his post over there on that side of the hallway and come to join us. And I can let him tell a lot more about what he's done, but he's definitely, my desk is right outside of his office, so I kind of have to say nice things about him because I have to stare at him like all day long. But he's a great person to work with. He's a very dedicated public servant, and I'm going to pass the mic off to him because he can probably do this better than I can. So there you go.
Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to City Hall and welcome to Pittsburgh. How many of you are from outside of southwestern Pennsylvania? All right, leave your hand up if you're from outside of Pennsylvania. And leave it up if you're outside of New Jersey, New York, West Virginia, Ohio area. We got some good distance. That's awesome. Great. Well, I hope so far week 1 of Pittsburgh is going well. The weather is like this year round. This is standard. You're going to love it. I don't know if you guys just saw The Economist in the last couple weeks. Sorry, I don't mean to walk on you, Alex. I make it hard on our guys. The Economist just came out with their annual rankings and ranked Pittsburgh the #2 most livable city in the U.S., but I like to say we are most livable because putting us up against Honolulu is just not fair or an equal comparison at all. If you're choosing between Honolulu and Pittsburgh, that's not apples to apples. But I hope you are enjoying it. And the first thing I would say is, and it's so great that Pitt does this and brings you downtown. I've had the opportunity to speak to this group for a number of years in a row, is keep doing this through your years at Pitt. One of the greatest traps, and I went to college in Oakland, a different college in Oakland, but I went to school in Oakland, and you so quickly fall into this trap of, I don't have a car, and all my friends are right here, and so you start to think that the city of Pittsburgh is Target, the Giant Eagle in Squirrel Hill, half price after 11, Mad Mex, and a couple other spots in Oakland. Am I lying, Caitlin? Not at all. Right. And then you're like, after 4 years, you're ready to go explore our city, and you never explored Pittsburgh, and you never got to be a part of it. Whether that's just for fun and going out with your friends, it's arts, it's culture, it's sports, it's tourism, it's our history, it's all of those things, or it's the internship side and the volunteerism and the being a part of our community. Don't get stuck in the thinking that the Towers to Mad Mex is the city of Pittsburgh, because it's easy to do, and you'll love your 4 years doing it, and you'll love your Pitt experience, and you'll love your academics and your degree, but you don't get to know Pittsburgh. And it really is the most livable city in the country. I'm originally actually from Northern California, though, yeah, where? Oakland, or I'm Palo Alto, so it's the other side of the bay. Went to high school here, my family moved when I was 13. I went to high school here, I stayed for college, and ended up coming to City Hall right out of school. And as Caitlin so kindly said in the intro, spent 10 years as Chief of Staff for Councilman Bill Peduto, then ran for office and was fortunate enough to be elected twice as a city council member, though I quit before I served my second term to become the #2 in the city to the mayor, which is the greatest job in America, and I'm incredibly lucky to do it. But even coming from Northern California and having a few other experiences I'll talk about, I have no interest in ever going anywhere else. And I don't just have to say that because I'm on television and people will see that the Chief of Staff is saying that, but it is true. Pittsburgh is either America's smallest big city or biggest small town. You get this incredible mix where you have the arts, the culture, the history, the sports, the experience of a major American city, but you also feel like you're walking down a street in small town Iowa at the same time. It takes no time before you know people. and you're such a part of this community, and it's such an asset to have a city like that. We have this incredible historic architecture tied to these beautiful rivers and riverfronts with the history of arts and culture, with the modern economy, with this great housing stock that's still affordable, with low crime rates. It's just this incredible mix of a city. And as much as I joke about the weather, our weather is actually one of the things I love. I love having 4 seasons. There aren't a lot of places that you actually get that anymore. And coming from Northern California, it feels weird to say you love this weather because it's like 72 and sunny every day there, which is, you just get tired of that. A little snow never hurt, some leaf changing, walking through Shenley Park, with the leaves changing, is not a bad thing. And so even that piece is something great to enjoy here. Pittsburgh is also an amazing place because of how unique it is. 90 neighborhoods officially in the city of Pittsburgh, and many of them are so defined, and it's actually in some ways our greatest blessing and one of our biggest curses, because it also leads to great segregation, ethnic, racial, economic segregation, and it's something the mayor charges us with working with every day to address. But it also provides some great culture that you still have a Little Italy. There's still a Polish Hill. There's still the German communities on the north side. You still have your little Chinatown area. These things still exist in a city, and that's a really cool factor to have. When I moved here, I remember I was out one time with the mayor, their then councilman, and we pull up to a corner, and 3 of the 4 corners have a Catholic cathedral on them. And I'm Jewish, I'm from California, and I'm like, I don't get this. Not computing, explain. And he's like, well, it's the Italian, the Polish, and the Irish. And I was like, I'm sorry, again, I'm Jewish, but they are all Catholic. But that's the way it was. These neighborhoods were built where the Irish community had their cathedral and the Italian community had their cathedral. And what that's left with is just this incredible old cultural community that today is a really great asset and something for you to get out and see. And people take such pride in the neighborhoods they're from. Just really quickly, as Caitlin said, I did, my career here did start as an intern. Between my junior and senior year, I had an internship in City Hall, and it led to a job offer coming out of college. But I want to tell you for a minute about my path before it, because I think it's important as people starting out in the next phase of your life to hear. Between my freshman and sophomore year, and I went to school basically as your ultimate undecided liberal arts. I had no idea what I wanted to do in life. Typically, I was like, I'll probably go to law school or go to DC. Really didn't know. And between my freshman and sophomore year, I'd gone to my advisor to say, what should I do? And it had kind of led through a series of things to an opportunity to intern with the ACLU. And for someone who was very lucky to grow up in a privileged and safe community, I didn't know what injustice was until I started to work for the ACLU. And what I realized was the injustices weren't just happening on TV across the ocean. The injustices weren't just happening in another state or in another city or in another part. Injustices to people were happening 3 blocks from where I was going to class. Injustices were happening to students I went to school with based off who they were and how they identified. Injustices were happening everywhere around me, and it was this incredibly, eye-opening experience of what realities of life were. And so I took that and I went back to school, and again, no idea what I want to do the next summer. And my advisor said, hey, you should apply for this fellowship in DC. And so I did, and I was fortunate enough to win a fellowship to spend my second summer in DC working on Capitol Hill through a paid experience. And what I discovered there was 3 things. Number 1, I loved government. Number 2, that government can and should really work for people, and that a lot of what I saw failing around me through my first internship could be solved by good government. And I also discovered that wasn't DC at all, and that is not a political statement. I'm in City Hall on government time. I'm not being political, but in all sincerity, it doesn't matter Democrats or Republicans. DC is a broken system of politics, and I was not going to see the change I wanted to see in DC as much as I actually loved it, and I strongly recommend trying to find a summer to spend in DC. It's a great experience for anyone, no matter what you want to study or be in life. So I then actually came back and I was involved in student government at Carnegie Mellon, and I ended up in an intern meeting with Councilman Peduto about something, and he said to me after the meeting, hey, you seem like a smart kid, why don't you intern for me this summer? And so I took that opportunity, knowing quite literally nothing about what city council did. My family was not one of these people who, was engaged in the local level. I didn't know anything about local government at all. I could have told you the mayor's name, and that was probably it. And what I discovered was that as an intern, in City Hall, I was doing more in days to impact the lives of individuals than I saw people doing in DC in careers. And that is when I realized what the power of local government was. I was out there and I was seeing that what you can see, feel, and touch, which is really what people care about, whether it be that your child can walk to school safely, or that the Little League field is in good condition, or that the fire department is well staffed to get to your house if needed, or the paramedics, or police in your neighborhood, or traffic lights, or whatever it is, snow removal, etc. These are all local government's things. And I would drive home after my internship back to where I live, and you could see like, oh, that stop sign that got knocked down that those parents were really worried about, that's back up. Or the flashing school zone sign got fixed, and those people who were worried about their kids walking to school, that's fixed. And you could see it. And it's an unbelievably great feeling of pride when you can go out and actually see that something you did worked, and it's changing someone's life. And then you get stopped on the street, and someone's like, oh, I just love you. You're so helpful in getting that stop sign put back up. That's what government can do. That's what government can and should be doing. And you are seeing it happen, not just in Pittsburgh, but in cities across this country and across the world, where cities are now your hearts of innovation and your hearts of functional government, and cities are working and now leading the charge, whether it be climate change or issues of equity or issues of infrastructure. It's all coming from cities. And so I found my passion, and now I stand here about 15 years later, 14 plus years later, couldn't be more proud to be a City of Pittsburgh employee and get to work for the city that I love. And I hope for some of you that's the passion you find. We certainly need bright people in government. It may not be. It may be any other path that you're going down, from engineering to science to the arts. But just know that you can find it through these experiences over your next 4 years, through internships, through volunteerism, through engaging in your community, that if you do realize that Pitt goes from further than just Mad Max to the towers, that there's this incredible city you can be a part of and find that inside of you. And if you have no clue what you want to do, welcome to what everyone else is feeling. That is fine. Most of us still don't necessarily know, but we certainly didn't then. And you'll find it. And that's what you're going to find. You may love, working in Oakland with OPDC and learn community development and development of affordable housing is your passion. Or you might find that figuring out why the traffic lights aren't timed very well and you want to be a traffic engineer. We're hiring. There's any number, it's true we are. There's any number of options out there. So enjoy it, take advantage of it, and take advantage of the fact that you're in such a great city that really is accessible and small, but large and global at the same time. And if you ever need anything, we're all really easy to reach. It's one of the cool things about Pittsburgh too, is how open and accessible not just government, but foundations and nonprofits and corporations are. You can reach us all on Facebook and Twitter and through the website or anything else anytime. So thank you, welcome.
Again, thank you, Chief Gilman. I would like to introduce to you next, from our Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, Assistant Director Alex Pazakanix.
Hello, welcome to Pittsburgh. You got on our roads to get here, on my roads to get here, which is very exciting. My name is Alex Pazakanix. I'm the Assistant Director of the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure. Part of the reason Pam asked me to come up is we are the newest department in the city of Pittsburgh. We did not exist 2 years ago. I was actually in the mayor's office as the policy director on the original email that gave birth to this department 2 years ago, and have been working on getting it stood up ever since. We'll talk a little bit about what it is, but just by way of background, I did not go to Pitt. I did go to high school and graduate school at the same intersection of Fifth and Craig. So I am from Pittsburgh originally, came back to Pittsburgh after going to undergrad in DC, started within a few weeks over in city council, did a brief stint in the budget office of the mayor, then worked as the mayor's policy director for a few years before helping to stand this department up. You're clicking. Mobility. So there's two definitions of mobility as the way that we think about it as the Department of Transportation. The first is moving around, right? We are not a Department of Transportation. We're a Department of Mobility because we believe that moving around doesn't necessarily need to be in a car, right? There's lots of ways that people walk or bike or Scooby. Anybody taken a Scooby yet since you've been here? Electric scooters, Vespas. or bike share, whatever the different mode may be. It's also, we talk about economic mobility, the way that we move around to new jobs, new opportunities, the way we get to school or other ways that we kind of advance ourselves. So we really see our job as doing both of those things, not just sort of how we physically move around, but why we move around too. So part of the reason that we exist is because commuting sucks. We'd like to make it easier on people. We'd like to provide options for that because we know that there's a direct relationship between how long your commute is and your potential risk for economic displacement. So it's very important for us to find ways to shorten commutes, not just by driving faster, but by finding opportunities to get you closer to where you want to be. There's a lot of words on that slide, and there's too many words on that slide. Essentially, what pro tip in undergrad, have less words on your slides. I forgot that lesson already. One thing that we do as a department is focus on the physical mobility, like I said, so that we can do the economic mobility better. Next slide. So we do a lot. Most of the people that work for the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure 2 years ago worked for either the Department of Public Works or the Department of City Planning. So we have been kind of bringing together, it's like a little bit of a sitcom, right? We're bringing together people from wildly divergent perspectives, trying to get them in a room and work together. So there's 3 teams. The team that builds the bridges, maintains the bridges, the team that does the traffic signals and the street markings and the road operations, and then my group who's really responsible for thinking big about transportation planning, right-of-way coordination, making sure that when stuff's getting dug up on the road, we know what's going in its place, and then policy, smart cities, driverless cars, drones, the whole 9 yards there. Next slide. We're just one piece of a much larger system around transportation here. Anybody in the engineering school are going to be awesome. That's all right. I have a political science. No, I don't. I have a business administration and a policy degree. So you don't need to be an engineer to do transportation. That being said, a lot of engineers that we work with work in PennDOT, the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, work for the Port Authority, which is the mass transit agency, which you guys all have free access to and should take absolute advantage of. It's a tremendous resource. We're very lucky to have as robust of a transit network as we do, as well as working with our state and federal partners and other departments as well. Next slide. So we have 5 goals here as the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure. These are the ways that we make investment decisions, the ways that we decide what projects we work on and what those projects look like. The first goal is nobody dies. This is an important one. It's why it's number 1. A big part of what makes a transportation system work well is safety. And that should be regardless of whether you have a 2-ton piece of metal that's blocking you, or if you are walking or riding your bicycle, you should feel safe and comfortable on the roads here in Pittsburgh. The second thing is focusing on fresh fruits and vegetables. So if you can get to fresh fruits and vegetables, doesn't have to be necessarily at a grocery store, but if you can get to fresh fruits and vegetables in 20 minutes, probably means you can get to the pharmacy. It probably means you can get to a big bus stop that can take you in, has more than one route and can get you wherever you're trying to go. It probably means that you can get to a playground or a library or a school. So making those 20-minute connections makes things a lot easier to really have a network that doesn't rely on you driving around. The third thing, all trips less than a mile are easily and enjoyably achieved by non-vehicle travel. I don't know if you've walked around too much in Pittsburgh yet, but as you'll find, there's a lot of hills. There are some topographical challenges. There's a lot of hills that are now at the bottom of the hills, which is why we have a landslide problem this year in particular. What we want to do is make that experience as pleasant as possible. I can't level all the hills, although Mother Nature is certainly doing her share. But what I can do is make it more pleasant to be on the sidewalk, provide opportunities to rest, to sit at a bench, when you're waiting at a bus, that it's not out in the rain. Our job is to make that experience, if not fun, at the very least pleasant. Fourth, streets and intersections can be intuitively navigated by an adolescent. So part of our weird topographical challenges here is, as you see, we don't have much of a grid, or in some cases we have too many grids all in the same spot. So what we do is think about what it means to get through an intersection, to walk in the street, to bicycle. If you trust your younger brother or sister walking through that intersection, it is probably a good intersection for a senior citizen to walk through, or for a new American or new to Pittsburgh to walk through. So what we're trying to do is make those intersections legible, even when they're complicated. And then the last is this idea that housing and transportation are linked together, right? So it can't just be you can get wherever you want to go, but you can't afford it. It has to be how we think about housing and transportation together. Next slide. The fun stuff. So obviously infrastructure's in our name. I do a lot of work with bicycle and pedestrian work, with transit. I also have the fun job of dealing with driverless cars, with electric vehicles, with kind of the sexy transportation problems of 2018. So the big challenge, the thing that keeps me up, one of the things that keeps me up at night these days, is that we don't necessarily know what the future is going to look like, right? We know autonomous vehicles are here, they're on our roads. We know that vehicles that can talk to one another are here or coming. We know that electric vehicles are here, and we know Lyft and Uber exist. But what we don't necessarily know is the cocktail that puts those things together. You know, what the car of the future is going to look like 5 or 10 years down the line, and who owns it and who needs to own it. Next slide. So what does that mean from an implementation standpoint? The first thing is, when we're talking about new technology, we're trying to do it in a way that responds to what human beings need, not what the robots need. It seems simple, but when you start from kind of what are the problems that we're trying to solve, rather than starting from what the technology can do, it's you know, the great philosopher Dr. Ian Malcolm saying, you know, you spent so much time trying to think about if you could that you never stopped to ask should you. Making sure that we pursue technology that really makes sense for our residents here in Pittsburgh. The second thing is focusing on this new data world. We collect a boatload of data. If anybody is interested in, you know, the civic tech community, the Western Pennsylvania Regional Data Center, which is held at the University of Pittsburgh, is an incredible resource for you to really dive into how we operate as a city. We provide all kind of data there around service requests that we do, around traffic and transportation, around our parks, our public works services. Anything that we do collect and can distribute is out there on the WPRDC, and I'd highly recommend taking a look if you're into that sort of thing. The third thing is, how do we engage with this new tech that is coming out? You know, we know those autonomous vehicles are on the road. They're not necessarily going to be City of Pittsburgh autonomous vehicles. So how do we respond to the fact that they are out there? And what do we do to keep our residents safe and our network efficient and functioning? And then the last thing is how we build partnerships around other cities. So I am on the phone pretty much constantly with my counterparts in Philadelphia or New York or Toronto about the next challenge, right? The Scoobies, the scooters that we talked about, which are actually a ton of fun, and I would recommend considering taking one if you can. You know, we're the third city in the country to have one of these scooter networks. That was I immediately made a call to my colleagues in San Francisco, who were the second city to have a scooter network, saying, hey, what did you guys do to think about this? It's incredibly valuable to have that network of counterparts and contemporaries in other cities who are all wrestling with it together. So yeah, it's a fun department. We are looking for internships. We do have internships if you are so interested. They're posted up on the city website. All right, well, great. Enjoy your time here in Pittsburgh. 4 years.
Thank you, Alex. I wanted to give you a little bit of the overview of the city departments. You know, innovation and performance is our tech department, and you've heard Alex from Mobility and Infrastructure, and Executive Director Carlos Torres from our Commission on Human Relations. But I also wanted to let you know that these are our elected offices, just so you know a little bit about our city and how we work. So we have 3 elected offices. That's the Office of the Mayor, the Office of the Controller, Michael Lamb, and then we have 9 council districts. So our 90 neighborhoods in our city are broken down into 9 different council districts. So wherever you live, if you're not all in Oakland, find out who your council person is, and
Call them
keep up with them. Call them relentlessly. Keep up with them. They're a good opportunity. They do take interns during the summer as well, and I'm not going to be able to switch over, but our city departments that we didn't talk about would include our Citizens Police Review Board, the office, our city planning department. They take the most interns by department of any other department. They usually have 15 or 18 different opportunities within their department for internships. The Equal Opportunity Review Commission, our finance department, human resources, of course, which is my department, law. We have an Office of Municipal Investigations that Caitlin talked about a little bit earlier, Parks and Recreation. Also a good place to work in the summer if you want to do that. They take interns, and they also hire a lot of part-time people. And if you're staying in the Pittsburgh area, they would be a good opportunity for you as well. And like, I forget who said it, I think Executive Director Torres, our departments are willing to work around schedules a lot of times because they realize that you're in school. So please don't be intimidated and apply often. Permits, licenses, and inspections is another department. They take care of building inspections and making sure all of our buildings are safe. And then we have public safety and public works. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about, again, was a little bit about our internship program. And they have, we accept applications year-round. I think there's only 4 or 5 positions posted at the moment for fall. I'll be posting in October and November for next spring, and then probably mid-December or so for the summer. And we'll run those, we'll keep applications open probably till the end of March. And a lot of you, since you're not from the Pittsburgh area, may be going home. So I would still encourage you to look to your local governments for opportunities to intern. And one of the most important things I try to impart to everybody, I do a lot of job fairs, a lot of internship fairs. Your skills are transferable. I saw the majority of you in here are poli-sci majors, right, or hoping to be, but there is somebody in every department here that does accounting and does payroll, timekeeping. Everybody has somebody who will be doing their social media, or my department has somebody that's writing policies. Well, a few of us do it, but you get my idea. So the city doesn't just hire, when you say who do you think works for the city of Pittsburgh, I think a lot of people right away think of the people who are fixing the roads, right? Keeping the roads clear, police, fire, and EMS. But we hire everything from bricklayers and plumbers to accountants and architects and civil engineers. So, our government is much more than just public safety, although they are a big part of our force, and we are so glad that they work for us. We hire all types of majors and all types of jobs, and every other municipal government would be the same. So I would encourage you to again consider us for internships. After that, consider us for employment. That's actually we're going to wrap up our program here. I hope you've enjoyed being with us today. And time permitting, at least he'll tell you a little bit about the building, the room here, because it's really interesting. All right? Thank you.